Good afternoon. Welcome back to TechStrong TV, coming to you live from the second day of RSAC, bustling with over 45,000 cybersecurity experts. We've been having great conversations the last couple of days with experts in the field. There's a lot of risk, there's a lot of challenge, but there's also a lot of opportunity. We're going to be talking about some opportunity in the blurred lines between personal and professional lives. I've got a couple of guests with me here. Matt Covington, the global head of product at Black Cloak, joins us.
Thank you.
And John Boyle from our very own TechStrong team, field CTO and tech strategist.
Yep.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
How's your show been so far?
Fantastic. It's been great. It's been busy. Lots of impromptu meetings with old colleagues, which is always very enjoyable.
I always think it's like a reunion. Every tech trade show
It
is
is
like a
absolutely
reunion,
a
which I
reunion.
You
love.
new friends
Right.
face to face
Yeah.
for the first time too, right?
Absolutely.
Same. I met you today.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know you from Zoom.
Exactly.
So Matt, talk a little bit about Black Cloak. I know this is a pioneer in digital executive protection, or DEP, but
Yep.
the company was founded just a few years ago. I love the name, Black Cloak.
It's a great name.
Yeah. What problems or gaps in the cybersecurity market were there back in 2019 when the founder said, there's a problem here, we've got a solution?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what it really comes down to is what is the definition of your attack surface as a company, right? Traditionally, you think about your hardware, the software, there's network telemetry security, there's boundary security, there's external security. Increasingly, as little as they may like the fact, executives themselves in their home lives are increasingly becoming part of that corporate attack surface. And so really the founding mission of Black Cloak was to provide security services that a CISO could buy that could protect the executive in their home life, whether it's personal devices, personal computers, and all of that security service wrapped in a sort of user-friendly concierge kind of service. And so our guiding principle from our CEO is, where every time we have a feature is, could mom use it, right? We are not selling to technical people who are very technical knowledgeable.
Okay.
It's really all about, is this easy to use? Yeah. That's our guiding
John,
path.
kind of bring some color here. It's never anything that I thought about. I don't live in the cybersecurity world. I cover it, but it's just not something that I thought about in terms of executives leaving work, whether it's working from home or working from an office, back in the office these days, and having their personal lives be bombarded by these threats. Have you seen a trend in the last few years of this going up?
So I think this was new to me. And one of the things really that's great about this is you find some new things. There's a lot of topics that are really hot out there, but one of my joys is finding and connecting the dots between the technology, new technologies and services to somebody like my parents who are healthcare executives. And you think of healthcare, it's critical infrastructure, right? It's important to us. And so when I engaged with Matt and we talked about Black Cloak, I had not really heard of the term digital executive protection. And so it was new to me, and my job was to figure out how to describe it to my dad, Bob. So Bob understands it, it's much better. So I think that I would say growing up with two healthcare executive parents, the problem's always been there.
Yeah.
It's just that the nefarious people out there doing the attacks, they're realizing that the home life is an island hop away from the enterprise.
Absolutely. The bad guys don't respect their boundaries.
No.
And so it's
They don't respect anything.
No.
Well, this is true. They
They kind of have a reputation for not respecting anything. But it's so interesting in the last few years with the explosion of ChatGPT on the scene. Every company is AI. We've got to have an AI story.
Yeah.
We've got to enable our executives. They need to have, especially during COVID, 24/7 communications with their team.
Right.
And so you're talking email, Slack, text, WhatsApp, you name it, LinkedIn. All of these are now attack elements.
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of the attack surface. I think one of the things we were really careful to try and do early on in the life of the company was kind of create a value proposition that gave the CISO, on the one hand, the assurance, okay, their folks are protected, but on the other hand, we were talking directly to the executives themselves, right? We were onboarding them. Everyone gets a personalized Zoom call where we'll onboard them, we'll walk them through installing the app, we'll describe our services, we'll ask them whether they have any particular concerns, and we don't share all of that personal information back to the CISO. Now, we'll give them enablement data so they can tell that, yes, I bought it for my 12 executives, and yes, all of those 12 executives have now been through their onboarding, but there's a lot of the time you're not necessarily comfortable having your corporate IT team knowing everything about your social media posts, and yet that is an incredibly incredibly interesting attack vector
Sure.
for the cyber criminals.
Sure.
And so
Yes.
we try and straddle that. On the one hand, we have to have a relationship with the CISO. But on the other hand, we're really in business to serve
The execs.
members themselves.
Yeah. How much of it is behavioral, of education, of making these executives aware, look, there's no boundary anymore.
Yeah.
Those lines are blurred. How much
Yes.
of that is really just educating them? And is it, I don't want to say it's an easy conversation, but they probably get it pretty quickly.
They do. One of the things we do, our team will show up to that initial call with some initial findings, and like oftentimes, well, we found this street address by looking at the dark web. Was this associated with you? And somebody will say, "Oh, I lived there 11 years ago. That's really
Ooh,
out
that
there."
gives me
You can
chills.
exactly.
Yes.
So typically we'll sort of softly introduce these elements and say, hey, look, just so you know, all of this information is out there and available, and this is what we're here to talk about today, is making you safe. You can take a deep breath, you can take a sigh of relief. We're here to solve those problems for you. And once
then-
you get there, it is a much easier conversation.
I'm sure it is, because it's, well, the threat surface, I mean, there's just more and more vectors every day with
Absolutely.
the amount of data that's produced, all the applications, all the software, and that's not going to slow down.
Well, the other thing is that it's not just the data online. When I talk with Matt, immediately the way I described it, I mean, it was the image I got. And if anybody's seen the movie Usual Suspects, Kevin Spacey, Kaiser Sose, because how many times have you sat at a stoplight and you look at a minivan and like, oh, they got 6 kids, 2 of them are girls, the youngest one's a boy, they have a dog, they like this sports team, and so the message of that movie, if people haven't seen it, is that this person being interviewed by the police weaves a story of this mysterious Kaiser Sose with information that's behind the guy, you find out at the end, on a bulletin board, right? And that also, we have 6 kids at home. We're not home anymore, but they're on Xbox, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're posting pictures of themselves flipping a water bottle and celebrating. I mean, all these things, that can be a story that's woven that can be compromised. So it's not just digital. It can be anything.
Right.
And it's absolutely education.
Yeah. Well, because I wouldn't think, I know those stickers you're talking about, like on the back of the minivan that shows
Yes.
like the dad, the mom, the kids,
Yeah.
the dogs, the cats, or schools, or a proud parent of an alumni at this university.
Nice job, Mary. You got A's. That's great. I'm your dad's friend. How's your dog doing?
Yes.
I mean,
And we
it's
don't
weird.
think
No,
about that
absolutely,
because
yeah.
it's kind of like a personal freedom, but now we have to be careful about
Yeah.
that. But you guys you're talking about entertainment personalities, athletes,
Yep.
other highly visible personas who
That's right.
are susceptible and probably highly unaware of this because they're just going about living their daily lives.
Absolutely.
But now they have to be aware of this.
And I think that's what we provide. It's peace of mind and that expertise to take care of these problems for you. And again, a lot of what we're doing are things that if you had infinite time and a lot of interest in it, you could figure out how to remove yourself from data brokers.
Yeah.
Much better to let someone else take care of that for you. And so there are many elements to what we do. There's part of a SaaS platform, which is doing things, data broker removal, identifying breach credentials that have been stolen. We even do like an attack surface style scan of our members' home networks to make sure there are no vulnerable services exposed. There's a lot we do there. But as you said, there's also an element you can't necessarily automate. For example, reviewing somebody's Facebook settings to make sure they're appropriate and they're not oversharing.
Yeah.
And so on the education side, that's absolutely something we can do. And our members at any time, they can go into the application, they can schedule a concierge appointment with a member of the Black Cloak team who will walk them through those things. We get all kinds of interesting questions.
I bet.
For example,
Yeah.
I'm traveling to China. What should I do? Should I take a burner phone? What should I do when I get back? And so that's really what we're there for, is beyond just simply the features of the automated service. It's really to provide that expert guidance in all aspects of digital life, but also going into the physical as well, as you said.
Yeah.
That's a great point, going into the physical as well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is if we go to traditional benefits companies provide to executives, there's a reason why when I was at Oracle, so many people could travel on an aircraft together.
Yep.
There's a reason why companies provide key person insurance. There's a reason why some companies like the big OEMs will send their executives once a year for MRIs and those sorts of things, right? They're all preventative.
Yeah.
Because in my mom and dad's world, as we talked about, you can go have a preventative exercise and it's going to cost you something, right? But there's a much steeper price for the major medical when you find something out later. And so I would say, people say, well, is this the CISO's job? No, this takes a burden off the CISO.
Yeah.
And it provides that buffer. But I was talking with you and Tracy, their chief marketing officer. I said, if I was to tell somebody this should be an HR must do.
Absolutely.
And it's not just a C-level. You have people that are vice presidents. There's a lot of people I've grouped with some people who are in Hollywood, and they didn't grow up like that. Mm-hmm. They didn't start that way. They weren't born into it. And so they have the privacy. And so, whereas Warhol said everybody wants their 15 minutes of fame, my quote, the first thing I ever tweeted on Twitter was, anonymity is the fame of the future.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you need to, you need your private life, and these guys here are just there to help. And so that when Bob comes home, my dad, and he wants to watch my ball game, and he can unplug too, right?
Yeah.
But do so with confidence that everything they do is not going to be used against him in his job and in a nefarious way.
Yep.
And so I was very impressed with what they're doing. It's a service and a solution.
Yeah.
And it's something that my dad, for instance, should be doing. My mom should be doing.
So Bob's got it.
No, Bob needs it. I'm going to talk to Bob. I'm going to introduce you to Bob.
We'll get it done. We'll do a deal.
He gets the concept,
Yeah.
though. He gets
Yes.
the concept.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was reading on the website that Black Cloak's DEP solution provides 14 pillars of protection.
Yes.
Summarize that for us, because
Absolutely.
this is the anonymity, John, that you talked about.
Yeah.
That's a luxury that a lot of people don't realize
want that.
they don't have. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so around those 17 pillars, we have data broker removal. We are looking for breach credentials online. And again, the company is probably doing that for their corporate email address, who is taking care of that for the personal email address, the spouse's email address. As I said, we do home network scanning. We even have what we call our deception engine. And so if you have Black Cloak installed on a PC in your home and somebody is on your network and looking at what services are available, they're going to see an FTP server. If they try and look into it, it sets off an alarm in our SOC where we'll jump into action to protect them. So across the full range of security, privacy, even into things like home protection, we'll remove the image of your home from Google Street View.
Wow.
Because
They'll
again,
like that, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We started to see some really scary extortionware emails where that was front and center, as in, we know where you live and therefore you better do what we say. And
Right.
so we're always finding new ways to add capabilities. We just launched something called identity verification, we think is going to be really the next exciting thing for us to talk about. And this really, if I have my circle of trust with my family, and then I get a phone call or a message from one of my kids saying, hey Dad, send me $1,000 so I can bail myself out, right? I don't want to take that on faith. And so if we both have Black Cloak on our app, I can send an identity verification challenge over the air that he can respond to. And so if it is him, he can click verify. If it isn't him, he can click deny. And it's just an additional step that we're able to take. So within the family or within a work group, you can trust you're speaking to the right person because both of you have Black Cloak on the device. We know the device is secure. It has a secure connection to Black Cloak. So we're able to sit in the middle there and mitigate and work with these identity verification
and verify
requests. So we've actually been talking about that a lot this week.
More to
We've had
talk
some really
about,
great
though.
feedback from it, yeah.
That's amazing.
I think the other thing, though, is that people say, well, what industries need this technology? Here's the thing, is that we talk about healthcare, financial services, energy,
heavily regulated.
Critical infrastructure. We talk about nonprofits. Where do government officials go a lot of times to work after they're done? They go to a nonprofit, a foundation. They have relationships back at intelligence community, DOD, state, right? So it's an island hop away. And I would say that I looked at this, I'm like, every organization who is responsible for protecting a service or something that is the fabric of our communities, like healthcare, are responsible for engaging these things proactively. And so I think it's an HR thing. I think that
I agree with you on
that. It's not a C level. It's not a CISO or CTO thing. It should be part of every HR package. And the other thing is that you think about like why we're all here this week. I would say, why do we fight? Yeah, we talk about the bottom line. We talk about the brand, the data. At the end of the day, we talk about healthcare. There's kids in the NICU. There's people who have cancer records. A mom was in the hospital and she coded in her room. And what if the lights went out then, right? So these organizations are protecting human lives.
Yes.
We gloss over that.
Yeah.
So this is a way to make sure not only the family is protected, but that connection to the organizations that are taking care of a lot of people are doing that extra layer of defense that is just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, it is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Are you seeing, pivoting on what John just said, are you seeing any, talking about healthcare, financial services, insurance, some of those heavily regulated industries that have a lot of personal data on us?
Yes.
Are you seeing leading industries that Black Cloak is working with, or this really seems to me to be a horizontal play?
I think what you tend to find with a lot of security use case, financial services tend to have the budget first. But yeah, financial services, healthcare, very strongly represented, but it is across the board. It's all kinds of companies. We have consumer goods companies, we have food processing companies, just about any market segment you care to name, there's probably somebody inside our portfolio there, because the issues aren't industry specific, right?
No.
And so,
is this the new way of life for executives?
That's a great question. I think it is. And I say that because at the end of the day, the bad guys aren't going anywhere.
Right.
The tools at their disposal are becoming increasingly sophisticated with AI, right? And particularly with deep fakes and sort of.
I was going to ask that. Deepfakes are crazy.
Exactly.
It just amplifies the problem exponentially.
It's sort of one of those, the song remains the same, right? I'll go for the Led Zeppelin reference.
Zeppelin, Now we're
It's
riffing.
all about, it's about spear phishing attacks, but the sophistication of those attacks, when you can just grab 30 minutes of audio of a CFO giving their earnings report, and you can feed that into an internet website, and you can have them say anything at all back.
Right.
It's incredibly important that we have tools and services available. And again, that was really the genesis of identity verification. It was sort of like Google Authenticator, but to verify between two individuals that yes, you are who you say you are, I am who I say I am. And deepfake really, I think, was driving a lot of concern from members of we just don't know what to do, we don't know where to turn.
Is there a consumer play here down the road? Because I can see this being something that everyone is going to need at some point, probably in the near future.
That's a really interesting question. I think it's definitely the case that, I mean, you made a good point about, it's not just the executives. Anybody in an organization who has a public-facing role, it can be executive assistants, it can be the finance team, they're dealing with vendors often, and so you're looking for all of those edges on the organization. So I think there definitely is a hierarchy that certain individuals, like it or not, are going to be richer targets, right? They have more money, right? They have more influence that I could potentially exploit as an attacker. But yeah, I do think a lot of these services, if you look at, a lot of these consumer identity protection services are starting to get more into these areas. I think what the take we tried is what needs to be different for like the busy executive to engage. They're not going to sit down and fill out a, 4-page form to on board,
no,
right?
you need to make it easy for them and seamless. Seamlessly integrated.
It's also, when you look at, the consumer solutions, their technology solutions, their software, their apps, and the thing that Black Cloak provides that's always compelling to remember is the concierge service. They're the ones that get called at 3 a.m. It's not an automated thing, there's people, there's education. And so I guess the way I would describe it as, people buy a Porsche for a Porsche, or as my wife would say, Porsche, sorry.
Porsche.
I know, it's like, that's the Northwest to be coming out, a Porsche. And there's been attempts where Porsche or other companies that are trying to target that certain audience for a purpose, try to make like a Toyota. And well, there's a reason you make a Toyota versus a Porsche. I think that there's application there, but I think that you don't want to, as we say in the United States, peanut butter spread it and take away from the focus they have.
Correct.
Because there's a lot of work to do right there.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Very well said. Yeah.
Drop the mic.
That, right?
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on the program and explaining what digital executive protection is. Like, to you, that was a new term to me. Just kind of opened my eyes to, wow, this is a new way of life for executives. But that you have the solution that is able to really educate them on this risk landscape and help them protect themselves.
Perfect.
So I'm going to end on my one note from the article that in the movie they talk about the devil's greatest tricks. I used that angle. And my closing statement on the article when I first met Matt was the devil's greatest trick is not piercing your firewall, but making you think that your executive's home life doesn't matter.
Yep, absolutely.
That's basically it.
Wow.
And
That's
it's your
powerful.
job, everybody out there, proactively to take care of this and avoid a reactive incident.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yes, absolutely.
This is fascinating. I'm going to be following Black Cloak. Thank you so much, guys, for
pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
describing the the risks, but also the opportunity and the ability to use technology for good. We appreciate your insights and your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, my pleasure. For my guests, I'm Lisa Martin. You're watching TechStrong TV live from RSAC. Day 2 of our coverage wraps up with one more interview today, so stay tuned. I'll see you in just a few minutes.